My name is Councillor Gary Marsh. I'm the chairman. To my left is my vice chairman, Councillor Kennedy. To my right is Steve Ashdown, head of development control management. To his right is Paul Weeks, our legal officer. You've got Joe Swift, who's a senior planning officer, and into the two corners are members of the committees who look after us all, and everybody in front of us is going to make the decision. So we're going to go to item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. I've got Councillor Kenny. I haven't heard from Councillor Sane. Has anybody heard from? No, so we'll hold him in abeyance. Item 2 is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Nope. Right, item 3 is, before I read out what item 3 is, I've had an email from Councillor Brown, and he said, I don't believe the minutes of our previous meeting reflect the point I made, which was the lighting poles proposed were far too short at 4 meters in height, would give a reasonable illumination distribution to the car park. Now, I can ask members if you feel that needs to be added, or if it's not necessary, what else does it bring? So can I just get a straw poll if you want that added? If not, we'll just go with what's in the minutes. Okay.
Added.
You want it added?
Yes, please.
Anybody?
I was thinking, Mr. Chairman, we just had it noted within the committee. I think that's all Councillor Brown's really looking.
Okay, we'll do for that then. We'll note it. Added to, well, actually, to be perfectly honest, it wouldn't do any harm just adding it, to be perfectly honest. Just add it. Okay, so with that bit added, can we do by general affirmation that the minutes are okay? Yeah, agreed, thank you. Item 3 is to consider any items I agree to take as urgent business. I have none, which brings us to the substantive part of the reason we're here today. Item 5 is DM 240877 Linfield Bowling Club on Linfield Common. I'm going to ask Joe Swift to introduce this. Members, you've obviously read the report. It's only here because it's owned by Mid Sussex District Council. So Joe, this is all yours.
Thank you, Chairman. We have no updates on this application. So the application is seeking to upgrade the existing Bowling Green irrigation and water storage facility and the proposed new lean-to shed. As mentioned, it's only before committee because this is on Mid Sussex owned land. Here we've got the location and block plan, and we can see the site here outlined in red. And the proposed lean-to is going to the northwestern corner of the existing clubhouse. In terms of the site constraints, the site is designated within the Mid Sussex District Plan as being within the built-up area boundary of Linfield. It's also within a conservation area, and the Burnt House Farm is a Grade 2 listed building. Here we can see the existing floor plan. The area in question is currently occupied by a shed which has now been removed from the site because it is rotting, and the existing concrete plinth and the existing water tank. Just for context, here's the elevations of what is currently in place. The following is the proposed floor plan. The proposal is seeking to put a lean-to within the same location. The water tank is to be internal within that lean-to, and there's also going to be provision for the storage of bins within this area. Here we can see the proposed elevations. The frontage is going to be constructed of shiplap cladding to match the existing clubhouse. And finally, we have some photos of the site. So the first photo is looking south towards the clubhouse. It is located quite discreetly within the corner of the existing bowls club, with good screening both to the rear and to the side. The second photo here is looking northeast. Just to highlight again, we've got good screening with this hedgerow running along the boundary, which will reduce any visibility of this. And the final photo is just looking northwest along the front of the clubhouse towards the curtilage of the listed building, Burnt House Farm. The proposal would support the existing leisure and community use of the site, and as such is considered acceptable in principle. The proposed replacement structures is considered to be of an appropriate design and appearance, which would improve the overall character of the area and would also preserve the character of the conservation area. Due to the separation and screening, the proposal is not considered to cause significant harm to neighbouring amenities and would also preserve the setting of the adjacent listed building. And while the proposal does not include rainwater harvesting, this is the same as the existing situation and as such is not considered sufficient to refuse the application on that ground. In addition, following discussions with the Bowls Club, they are going to look into rainwater harvesting options for the future. It is therefore recommended that this application is approved subject to the conditions listed in Appendix A. Thank you, Chairman.
The members of the public listening or watching on YouTube, if they are, you're not subjected to the normal time constraints, but looking at your what you're going to say, I doubt if you're going to get anywhere near 2 minutes anyway.
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak in support of the application made by Linfield Bowls Club as one of the councillors for Linfield Ward. I would add that my fellow councillor, Anne-Marie Cook, is also in support of this application. The shed and the irrigation scheme proposed will help secure the green at the high level it needs to be. This is a large bowls club with over 140 members and often stages important competitions in the sport that bring people from across the county and the country. 8 of its present members have represented England in the past, and the current chair is an England para bowler. This is an important asset to the community and supports the council's aims of encouraging sport for all ages, helping to maintain the health of its members. The system proposed will be more efficient than the last system. When used, the current system uses 1,600 litres by watering 2 or perhaps sometimes 3 sessions a night, a total of 4,800 litres. The new system will require the use of 2,500 litres once a night, a saving of 700 or 2,300 litres. It is clear that the proposed system is considerably less intensive in its use. The condition of the grass following the appointment of a new contractor when the club moved to self-governance last autumn has led to an improvement which radically reduces the use of water. It's also the case that the irrigation system is not used every night, and it has certainly not been used in 2024 due to May's record rainfall. The additional space by the redesigned shed will enable the storing of 4 blue bins that are currently in the eye line of people, which is aesthetically something of an eyesore. The club has committed to undertake a study of rainwater harvesting and how it's managed, and I support and encourage them in this. We'd like to say thank you to Joseph Swift for his help in drawing up plans and enabling this to be submitted to the committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Members, before we go to debate, if anybody wishes to speak on it, you probably noticed that Linfield Parish Council have objected because it hasn't gone to rainwater harvesting. But Joe's included in the report on page 10, which is 2.7, which is while it's noted, it doesn't include, they are committed to to looking at it. You know, it's, when we sign the lease over to these organisations, it's down to them to forward it. And we don't give them any extra money. And if that's probably why they haven't gone to that stage at this point in time. So does any member wish to speak on it? Councillor Brown.
Thank you very much. Rainwater harvesting, yes. I'm pleased to hear what's been said, that the intention is to have a look at it, and I realise it's a voluntary organisation. But nevertheless, one of MDP 39, it requires a demonstration of how risks associated with future climate change have been planned for as part of the layout of the scheme and design of the building, and ensure its longer term resilience. So, at the very least, I'd like to ask if we can record an advisory clause that this committee would consider that they are getting on with it, because it's a really obvious one, and I feel it's been a little bit underplayed by the officer in 2.7. That's my first question. Has it got, or can it have an advisory note? And the second one is, I'm interested to know how the quantity of water has been reduced so substantially. I mean, water's water. I don't quite understand how this new installation has achieved that. Thank you very much.
I think, as it was pointed out, the new people who look after it are doing something better, which doesn't need the amount of water. Don't ask me why. Grass is grass. My grass grows like crazy when it rains. So I'm not an expert, so Joe.
Thank you, Chairman. In terms of your first point, we could put an informative on to sort of obviously highlight that we would like to see them to look at the rainwater harvesting. Obviously, I think there's someone from the Bowls Club here tonight, so they are aware as well. They've heard the discussion on that point. In terms of the water usage, I think that the point that was made was that because the grass is being maintained to a high level, it doesn't actually need as much watering because it is grown. It's not got any bare patches. So the fact that it is there, that's what the point was making. It needs less watering because it is well established. But you know, we're dealing with the application before us. The current situation with the watering is that they're using the existing tank, so there's no real change in the fact that they will still be watering from the same level. So that's why it wasn't considered justification on its own to refuse it on that ground. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Councillor Henwood. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Okay. I find this absolutely amazing that the Bowls Club are willing to invest in all of this new shed and new tank without considering rainwater harvesting. I mean, we are supposed to be a sustainable council. We've got all the proposals in our gut policies. So are we just, you know, going to, hey, oh, well, it's okay. They might in a few years consider it. Well, we are here and now. It cannot be further advertised how the climate change is affecting us. I really could not support such a proposal. They must have a vision for the future. They're going to invest in this apparatus. So they should be looking for future and using rainwater harvesting. Thank you.
Well, from us who are old enough to know pounds, shillings and pence, I should imagine a lot of this has gone down to pounds, shillings and pence. And I know you can shake your head, but unfortunately, as it's a voluntary organisation and they've got limited funds, that's what I presume it to be. You know, perhaps they might want to ask for a grant from the council. Councillor Cherry.
Yes, I would simply reiterate the comments made by Councillor Henwood and Councillor Brown. I also think it's very short-sighted in as much as to not include rainwater capture, in as much as whoever forms the next government after the general election, all the parties have made it quite clear that pursuing a more greener agenda is going to be very much in the forefront. And I'm pretty certain that this bowls club will have to change this irrigation system from its present unsustainability. I am quite amazed. I appreciate that the reason why they're not including rainwater capture is because they prefer it to be screened off. So it's purely for aesthetic reasons that this tank is going to be screened off, thereby it's not accessible to rainwater. And I think we need to concentrate more on the sustainability of the tank rather than how it looks aesthetically. So as it stands at the moment, I'm not very happy about supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. We are having to only deal with what we've got in front of us. So, councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. I've heard the comments. I think you ought to play a bit of common sense to this application. You can't just refuse an application just because, you know, you're not harvesting rainwater. I mean, the improvements in the conservation area of a new shed and the water tanks inside the shed hidden, that's fine. And they're actually looking into the future. You know, they may not have the finances at this current time, as you alluded to, but you can't just refuse an application because we're not harvesting rainwater. I know this council we're looking at sustainability and all that, and I think we're doing a very good job on that, but you can't just refuse applications and go in 100% green all the time.
I think that's what's caused a lot of problems in the country, trying to do that, but that's another story. Councillor Hitchcock.
I think I'm right in saying that if it hadn't been for the land ownership, this wouldn't have come to this committee.
would not
and it
have.
would have been approved by now.
Yes,
Thank you.
definitely 100%. Do you want to speak? My Vice Chairman.
Just looking at the figures, I mean, the system that we are asked to approve is going to make around about a 45% saving in water, so we're told. That seems to be a pretty good saving, yeah, whatever the future, and a notification attached to say that they're going to be looking at rainwater harvesting in the future is a pretty good way forward, I think.
Yeah. Councillor Henwood, anything new to offer?
Well, it's not rocket science to have gutters which collect the rainwater, which therefore fills your water tank. We have about 5. That's not rocket science. It's not that expensive. We are the landowner. It will be seen that Mid Sussex District Council as landowner, they don't really care that much about future sustainability.
Doesn't work like that. When you sign over a lease, they have a full repairing lease, as we all know, at the Haven Centre and in the Arc and all those other stuff we got. We hand it over, it's down to them to look after it. And like I said, it's not beyond the realms that they could come to the District Council and ask for a grant. And if they ask for a grant, I'm sure it will be favourably looked at because it is on our ground. But it is what it is. We've got what we've got in front of us. And so I need a proposer for the Councillor Hitchcock, Councillor Sweatman. The normal rules apply. If you agree with the recommendation, it's green. If you don't, it's red. If you abstain, it is yellow. Somebody's not voted. Oh, so we have now. Right. 8 are in favour, 3 against it. This has been approved with the informative about the rainwater harvesting in the future. Thank you. Just wait while the officers change over. ready? Okay, this is item 6, DM 240298, Millwood East Street, Turners Hill. You've been here before. Hamish.
Thank you, Chairman. The application before the committee is full planning application for the change of use of part of a building for short-term holiday let at Millwood East Street, Turners Hill, RH10 4QQ. The application is before the committee as a previous application at the site, DM 222576, was determined by this committee. The site is located within the countryside, and the setting of the Highwood OMB, which is located to the south of the site, to the south of East Street, which is at the bottom there. The site is located to the north of Millwood East Street, as seen here, outlined in red. The site consists of a barn, 2 stable blocks, a building approved to be used as a dog grooming parlour, and an area of hard standing. The building proposed to be converted is located to the east of the site and was originally permitted to be used as a dog grooming parlour. So that's that hatched building there, where my cursor's going around. Here are the elevations of the building. As part of the conversion, the application does also seek permission to install 2 roof lights within the south-facing roof slope and a Juliet balcony within the east-facing elevation. These elements of the application have already been implemented, and as such, these parts of the application are seeking retrospective consent. So here are the floor plans of the building. The building would comprise of a lobby, open plan kitchen and lounge, bathroom and 1 bedroom. The application documents show 2 off-street parking spaces will be designated for the proposal within the existing parking area to the west of the building. Next are the photos of the building. These are looking from east to west. And then the one on the left is a photo of the parking area, so looking east from the west. And you can see the building in the background here, so you can see it's not completed on terms of this elevation, having the timber cladding on it. And then, yeah, the one on the right is from the eastern elevation of the building, looking towards the fields that are being used for the dog training that was previously approved. And then the one on the left is an image of the highways access. And the image on the right is of the northern facing elevation. No third-party letter of representation have been received in respect to the application, and the Parish Council have raised an objection to the application as it consists of new development in the countryside and due to the proposal non-compliance with policy DP12 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan and policy THP 8 of the Turners Hill Neighbourhood Plan. The Mid-Sussex District Council Environmental Health Team have provided advice on environmental health legislation, and West Sussex Highways and Natural England have raised no objection to the application. The issues are set out in the committee report, and in terms of the principle of development, the site is located within the countryside, and as such development is required to maintain, or where possible, enhance the quality of the rural and landscape character of the district. As the proposal is not for the purposes of agriculture, policy DP12 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan also requires development be supported by a specific policy elsewhere in the development plan. Policy DP19 supports tourism uses, which the proposed use is, provided it supports a sustainable growth of the rural economy and maintains, or where possible, enhance the quality of the rural and landscape character of the district. Policy DP14 also supports small-scale economic development, including tourism uses within the countryside, provided it supports sustainable growth and the vitality of the rural economy, and where possible, utilises previously developed sites. The application utilises an existing building, and the physical development proposed is modest in its scale. The proposed use is modest in its nature, and due to the use and scale, it is considered to support the sustainable growth and vitality of the rural economy. As such, the principle is considered acceptable. The Parish Council's objections is noted, however, given the assessment contained within the report, the principle of development is considered acceptable. A condition has been imposed to ensure that the proposal will be used for tourism uses only. Any variation of this use would need plan permission in its own right. Design and character is detailed within the report, and the design, appearance and character of the proposal is considered to address the character and scale of the surrounding buildings and landscape. The proposed use is modest in its nature, and due to the position of the openings and that the distance from the nearest residential property is some 30 metres, the application is not considered to cause significant harm to the amenities of existing nearby residents. The Local Highways Authority have raised no objection to the proposal, and the parking arrangement is considered to be acceptable. Standard accommodation is also considered to be acceptable. Due to its modest nature, the proposal is not considered to detract from the visual qualities and essential characteristics of the AONB, and subject to the completion of a legal agreement, the application would be providing the relevant SAM contributions to mitigate its impact on the Ashdown Forest. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A and the completion of a Section 106 agreement to secure the SAM mitigation. There is also a recommendation B that if a satisfactory planning obligation has not been completed by the 12th of August 2024, it is recommended that the planning permission be refused at the discretion of the Assistant Director for Planning and Sustainable Economy. For the following reasons, the application does not adequately mitigate the potential harm on the Ashdown Forest SPA and therefore would be contrary to the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulations 2017, Policy DP17 for the Mid-Sussex District Plan and paragraph 187 of the National Planning Policy Framework. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Hamish. As I'm the ward councillor, I'm going to go first. I'm not happy with it, but there are no reasons to refuse it, unfortunately. But I would like to add my, we can only deal with what we've got in front of us, and as Hamish did say, any other changes would need a planning application. I would like to think that this is the final step at this site, because we agreed the dog walking grooming and a new road coming in off the A26, no, it's not the 264, it's the 2110. So, not much more I can say about it. It's just that, unfortunately, reading through the policies say we will support this type of business in the district, in the countryside. I just wish he had done it right at the beginning and we would have known what was happening, because that was built on behalf of the first one, and that's not what we gave agreement for. So we knew this is what he was going for, but we are where we are. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Henwood.
Could you go back to the diagram showing, I can't quite see the layout. Yeah, so on the right-hand side is the building. What is that all along on the left-hand side? All those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are those?
Meant to be the dog grooming bits, I think.
It's not to keep the dogs, it's cages. or
That's
something.
the existing stables, so there is a picture of them. So on
That's
the
6
right-hand
stables.
side,
Okay,
you see,
that's the long,
yeah,
okay.
they're existing stables.
Stables for horses?
Yeah, for horses, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, just curious layout. Anyway, I am sympathetic to Councillor Marsh. You can see this is a further step along the road to what they want to have done. So as you say, there's no planning reasons, but could we please, on page 42, we have consultation by Burgess Hill Town Council. Could we please delete that, Burgess Hill Town Council, page 42?
I know you're important, but I didn't think you're that important to coming all the way up to our part of the world.
We didn't. We haven't made any comment on this, so if they could just alter that, presumably that's the Bolney, that's the local parish, not us.
Tennis Hill Parish Council.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, yes, Chairman, I see the problem.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I agree with you. I mean, I think this applicant is wasting this committee's time, really, because it's only a short while ago where we looked at this dog walking, as you mentioned. But I'm just looking at DP 26, where it says, is of high quality design and layout and includes appropriate landscaping and green space. Well, it doesn't need to do anything of that, but positively addresses sustainability considerations in the layout of the building and design. I have no indication whether it does. I suspect it doesn't, because it looks like a shed that's been adapted. And then finally, optimises the potential of the site to accommodate development. Well, it obviously doesn't do that. I mean, you know, it could be a foot in the door to have a large estate of similar holiday accommodation, you know. I mean, my first question was going to be, but Hamish already answered it, and that is, you know, if it is changed to permanent residence, there would be a new planning application. But even as it stands, I don't see this as sustainable tourism either. That's DP 19, and that was read out to us. I'll read it again. Maintains, or where possible, enhances the quality of the rural landscape and character of the district in accordance with policy DP 12, and protects and enhances the countryside. So it doesn't really do any of these things. It's neither one thing nor the other, and I don't like it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a sustainable location because the buses stop as far as the park. They don't go down to this site. Hamish, you might want to just address to the committee, because it's something that you and I have spoken about. They're not even allowed to put a patio or decking out without further planning permission, are they?
Yeah, so we've got the condition that talks about property only being used as short-term holiday let, so the permitted development rights that would be attributed to a normal residential property on the same for that type of use. And yeah, as you've said, any further kind of use that isn't described within the application would require plan permission and on its own right and be assessed in a different way to how this application's been assessed.
Thank you. I do share your concerns. This could be the first step in, and there's, you know, well, dogs aren't making enough money. Can we have a load more of these? And that's a different ball game altogether. Well, we are where we are. We can only deal with what we've got in front of us. So I was actually going to propose it, but I'm not going to, because I just can't bring myself to propose it. So can I have a proposer for the recommendation A and B? And it's recommended subject to completion of a satisfactory signed section 106 legal agreement and or legal undertaking to secure the necessary SAM contributions. Planning permission be granted subject to conditions set out in Appendix A. And recommendation B basically says if it's not done by the 12th of August, satisfied, it will be refused. Can I have a Councillor Kennedy, and can I have a seconder? Councillor Kinsella. Normal rules apply. If you go for it, green. If you don't, red. If you're abstaining. Okay, we've got 7 for, 1 against and 3 abstaining. It's approved. There's nothing much we could have done with that one, unfortunately. All right, we're now moving to other matters. We're changing rooms again.
There's nothing you can do,
Nothing we can do.
basically.
He shafted us, wasn't it? Or are you going to do it from there?
I'll come over here.
Okay. Don't take the legal head off. Cheers, Hamish. Thank you. Right, we've got item 7 on the agenda, which is up for refusal. This is DM 233114. This is 68 and 70 Chemo Road in Hassocks. And this is yours, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So, view. So, as set out in the report, this is the application isn't before you today. What we are seeking is what decision you would have made had you had the opportunity to do so, which will then form our case at the inquiry which is due, and that the first bit of the update sheet sets out when we had actually got an inquiry date now of the 10th of September. So the applicants have appealed against non-determination. The inspector have agreed that it will be heard by public inquiry. We have a date, the 10th of September. So it's important for us as officers to know what your decision would have been, because then that will form our case, which we'll put to the planning inspector. So we've got an update there on ecology as well, but I wanted to draw your attention to the 2 reasons for refusal that we're suggesting, particularly reason 2, which has changed from what is published in your report. As we set out in the update sheet there, since the report was published, we became aware that some of the windows were actually obscurely glazed and not clear glazed. So we've removed reference to overlooking and loss of privacy because those windows are obscurely glazed now, and have just refined the rest of the wording of the reason for refusal to reflect further review as a result of being aware of those plans. So the site is located here in red on the southern side of Kemah Road. It's Kemah Road here. It's within the built-up area of Hassocks, where it's currently formed of 2 residential properties. So the scheme involves the demolition of the 2 residential properties and the construction of a single building containing 41 older people accommodation, which consists of 27 1-bed units and 14 2-bed units. It will be a 2.5-storey building. There'll be 18 car parking spaces located on the western side of the site here. 20% of those parking spaces will have EV charging, with the remainder passive ability for connection in the future. And there is also a mobility scooter store located here. So set out, this is the front elevation. So it's sort of 2.5 stories here with accommodation in the roof. It's obviously designed to look like 2 buildings with a setback connection in the middle. As you can see, it's a traditional design approach in terms of a mix of brick and render with tiles, tile hanging, and actually 2 different tile colourings as you go through the building. So you can see a proposed grey tile here. So this is the rear projection into the site. So this is the elevation that faces westwards, i.e. towards 66A Kemah Road. This is the southern elevation, so it's this bit right down the southern part of the site. This is where originally in the report before you we were concerned about overlooking from these bank of windows. All these windows are indicated to be obscurely glazed on this plan. Then in terms of, this is the elevation facing east. This is the elevation which is adjacent to 72 Kemah Road, with 72 Kemah Road located in this location here. Again, all of these windows here are indicated to be obscurely glazed. We don't know at this stage whether they are obscurely glazed non-opening. All we know is that they're obscurely glazed. So in terms of, these are some photos of the existing site. Obviously, this is one of the buildings here which will be demolished, and this is the second one. Then in terms of this, just some photographs around the rear garden of the site to show the relationships with the existing adjacent residential properties. So in terms of the issues in front of you, the report sets out that Officers are content with the principle of development. So principle of development on the site is acceptable. It's in the built-up area. In addition, we're content that the impact on the scheme in relation to highway safety, drainage, trees, contaminated land are acceptable, and there will be no likely significant effect on the Ashdown Forest, SPA or SAC. The report does acknowledge that there is a need for older people's accommodation, and the proposed 41 units will make a positive contribution that weighs in favour of the scheme. The scheme is in a sustainable location and would result in construction jobs over the life of the build, again, which do attract positive weight. However, the report does outline a number of issues which weigh against the scheme. The scheme is considered to be an overdevelopment of the site due to its footprint, scale and massing, which would be harmful to the character and appearance of the area and conflict with the predominant positive characteristics of the area. In addition, it's proposed that the scheme would be an unnamed form of development that would give rise to perceived impact on privacy to the rear gardens of adjacent properties from habitable rooms, which we showed in the rear projection. In addition, it's considered the parking area and the adjacent scooter mobility store would be unneighbourly and likely lead to an unacceptable impact on the rear garden of 66A to the detriment of residential amenity. So, as set out, we consider the scheme does not comply with policy DP 26 of the district plan, policy 9 of the neighbourhood plan, and also the design guide SPD. So overall, it's your officer's view that the harm identified in terms of what we have just set out outweighs the benefits of providing older people's accommodation, and that had we had the opportunity, we would have recommended a refusal for you for the reasons set out in the update sheet. Thank you, Chairman.
Just, you mentioned, Steve, the question or the issue of need.
Yeah.
Is presumably there's some sort of calculation that will result in you being able to say there is a need or there isn't a need, or what the scale of it is. Can you help us with that?
Yeah. So in terms of need, and particularly what we're talking about in terms of specific older people's accommodation need, because as you're aware, you know, we do have a 5-year land supply. But in terms of our draft district plan, it does set out that we do have a need for older people's accommodation, which is taken from our 2021 SHMA. And in terms of that need is 801 market accommodation units and 15 affordable. So what you need to take into account is there is that need, 801. This scheme will potentially contribute 41 units towards that. Our view is that would make a small contribution, while it is positive, and that although there is that need, the harm that we've identified does not outweigh that need. And Chairman, please forgive me, because I've just remembered something in terms of the reasons for refusal. Well, I focused on the 2 reasons that were in the update sheet.
There is another one.
There is, correct, and that's completely gone from my mind, and I do apologise. That is in relation to viability. Yeah. So the applicants have set out that there's a viability on this site. The report sets out the issues around that. We believe that there is scope in there to provide, I think it's £180,000. So we haven't reached agreement on that matter. So as we haven't reached an agreement on that matter, that would be a reason for refusal, and that would be reason for refusal 3. Yeah. So apologies for that, Chairman.
That's okay, I'll read that out in a minute when I get to that. While you've got that up, before I go to the membership, and you've and I totally agree with the additional reasons that I've lost my piece of paper. Oh, there it is. Well, members got to take consideration on why this is so important for this reason number 2. You might be able to just make out where the 2 buildings which are currently on the site are. There and there. So the people in this unit, which I assume it's 66A, the one on the left. One here. Yeah. So they would have only had a back garden next to them. Now they've got a driveway, potentially serving a lot of cars, potentially carers coming and going, and whatever. So their tranquility is definitely going to be compromised. So I think the wording for reason 2 is very, very important. So I'll add that to because we've had similar schemes like this where we have refused it when they've gone down to somebody else's house. Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so I absolutely agree with the officer's comments, and it's also worth noting that in the report, the design and review panel object to this as well. And we do take a lot of guidance from our design and review panel in all our applications. So, but I think we're, that's quite a good thing to look at there. That's basically it, Chairman, without going all through it again. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Hitchcock.
I think the other thing that we perhaps ought to emphasise, Steve, is that this is a very large building on that site. It's 2.5 storeys, it's 3 effectively. It is an overbearing building as far as the neighbours are concerned because of the massing. It's a massive building relative to what's around it. And I think that's one of the issues which we should bring up because it's incredibly unneighbourly in my view. As the chairman just pointed out, we had 2 people as neighbours. We've now got 5 and they're all overlooked.
Yeah, and the other thing that...
Sorry,
yeah, carry on.
I would very much, having looked at the ground floor plans and the first floor plans, I can't understand their comment about having excluded windows. I cannot understand it because this doesn't work if they have them.
No, it's a fair point, and I think in terms of while not wanting to rehearse what our case may be, but in terms of the fact that development of this size and scale has to have obscurely glazed windows to serve a number of the properties, probably relates to reason 1 that we're suggesting in terms of the overdevelopment of the site. It's symptomatic of that.
It's too much.
You raised something which I hadn't thought about until you raised it. Nearly 3 storeys, let's face it, it's nearly 3 storeys. During the winter, the trees on the right-hand side, these houses here, they'll be completely open. Correct me if I'm wrong, sun rises in the east, sets in the west. During the winter, they're not going to see any light because they've got this massive 3-storey building just the other side of where the trees are. So, yeah, I think there's plenty of reasons that we can add to but we won't, because we can't add stuff that we can't adequately defend. Councillor Hemwood.
I'm just curious about why this did not come to the committee before it was taken to an inspector.
Good question.
So the officer spent a lot of time trying to negotiate amendments to the scheme. We got amendments to the scheme. We re-advertised those amendments, and before the press expiry had gone, they appealed. So we didn't actually have the opportunity to bring it before members.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are developers out there who do that sort of thing to us. So I shall read, you've got the 2 items that are we've got as an update sheet, but I'll just do the reason for refusal 3. The proposal does not satisfy the requirements of policy DP 20 of the district plan in respect to infrastructure requirements, including affordable housing to service the development as supplemented by the council's supplementary planning documents, development infrastructure and contributions SPD brackets 218. The proposal therefore will also not satisfy the requirements of DP 31 of the district plan in respect to the provision of off-site contribution towards affordable housing. And that's including, that's item 3, the reason 3, but reasons 1 and 2 are on the update sheet. Okay, so can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hitchcock, Councillor Sweatman. Reasons to refuse it will be green if you like it. If you don't like it, our reasons, it's red. If you're That's unanimously for a refusal. Okay, thank you very much. Well, we're not finished yet. Right. To consider whether to exclude the press and public from the meeting during the consideration of the following items in accordance with Section 100A of the Local Government Act of 1972 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 1 and 2 and 7 of Part 1 of the Schedule 12A of said Act. I do need a, can you put your hands up, say you agree to it, please? Yeah, thank you. Live. you. Questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice which has been given. I have none. I therefore close the meeting at 5 o'clock. Before you go, remember, we'll wait till the live feeds come.
Oh, right, Chairman.